Blake Lively is back on her bullshit and she's continuing to spread her smear campaign in the media, a smear campaign that many people fell for. But I want to talk specifically about her narrative that she's standing up for other women, because throughout the course of this litigation, Blake has actually done a lot of harm to other women and she's been abusive. And here are a couple of ways how. Blake Lively, through a company called Vanzan that her and Ryan seem to run, opened up a lawsuit that they never intended to litigate or pursue. And they filed this lawsuit, a contract claim against John and Jane Doe, saying, we actually don't know who the defendants are in a contract case. Have you ever signed a contract where you don't know who the other party is? I haven't. I've reviewed hundreds of thousands of contracts. I've never not known who the two parties are to a contract. So red flag number one. Red flag number two, before discovery even opens, they're issuing a subpoena. And they issue a subpoena. All of a sudden, they know who the witnesses are. Don't know who the defendants are, but you know who the witnesses are. And that subpoena allowed them to obtain a phone that had been potentially illegally wiretapped, right? Because they were following somebody's personal iCloud information, which they weren't supposed to have access to. And Blake Lively did that to another woman. So she obtained another woman's private information in order to harm her, in order to doctor her text messages, drop those text messages in the media, and paint her out to be a villain through those doctored text messages to continue Blake Lively's smear campaign in the press, right? Why is this harmful? Why is this abusive? One, it shows us that, one, I don't think this is the first time these lawyers have done this. This was not Blake Lively's idea. This was definitely her lawyer's idea. And if her lawyers are willing to do this, how many times have they done this before? You're not allowed to file a lawsuit that you don't intend to litigate. That's actually not how the process works. There's something called Rule 11. And under Rule 11, it specifically bars groundless, frivolous, or lawsuits for the sake of delay, harassment, whatever. And that's exactly squarely what that Vanzan lawsuit fell into. So one, there was an ethical obligation for the attorneys not to do this. And two, I would like to know how many other times they've done this. Secretly filed lawsuits in order to issue a subpoena and use the court power without warning the people whose private information they sought. That leads me to the second time Blake Lively has been abusive. See, Blake Lively, throughout the course of this litigation, issued subpoenas to several social media platforms, but they sought the information of hundreds of people's private information without notice to those people. Now, Rule 75, which is the subpoena power rule, does say that you have to give somebody notice if you are subpoenaing their information, but they did not do that. They said, no, we're just subpoenaing TikTok. We don't have to tell the individual that we're seeking their private bank information, their personal messages through these apps. We don't have to tell them that. Some of those people, most of those people, were women. And the excuse was, oh, well, we received these names in litigation. They received one name in litigation, but issued subpoenas to hundreds of people. And all of those people who were people who were saying things bad about Blake Lively. That in itself is abusive. That in itself is harmful. And I could give you about 10 different ways that abusers could use those two processes that I just named. I could give you about 20 different names that abusers will use that exact process against women, how this harms women. The right to privacy is a feminist issue. It is a female-led issue. It is an issue that is central, in my mind, to the idea of freedom, right? And so the idea that Blake Lively is doing this for other victims is nothing more than lip service, because what Blake Lively has done throughout the course of this litigation is lie to the press and harm other women. I don't feel helped, Blake. So leave our names out of your mouth. Have the best day.